Hey guys, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. Jim Williams here, along with, of course, Sean Miller and Amadeus. Guys, um, hope you guys had a wonderful holiday weekend and that Santa was very kind to you.
Yeah, I can't believe it's Monday already. It's pretty crazy.
It is crazy.
That weekend
It,
flew by.
yeah, it was fast. I mean, it's rare to see so many NFL games on a holiday weekend. You normally don't get that. And we ended up getting some pretty good ones, and then of course a couple of bad ones. Uh, any thoughts on the weekend, boys?
Yeah, I mean that Cardinals game went exactly the way we thought it would. I don't know why the total was even 40 in that one.
Yeah,
That
and they just, I mean, it was like this was like an alternate universe of Tom Brady. Okay, he was tentative. He was throwing the ball. He missed wide open receivers. Um, I don't know if he's just gun shy or what the hell they're doing. But all that being said, I have no idea why they don't run that 2 minute offense the whole game. It's the only time they seem to get anything right.
I know, again, another comeback victory. I mean, I can't say I'm too disappointed. I know it was my Cardinals, but I kind of went into the game knowing they were going to lose. I'm shocked they even put up the fight that they did. But yeah, it's been a wild year for Tom Brady.
That was, by the way, that was his 45th come from behind win in his career.
Yeah, I mean, he's. It's like trying to think of it. And now, it's a little bit smoke and mirrors at this point. Like they're going to win the division. They have
Right.
probably. I mean,
Uh,
I don't know. I mean, it's still up for grabs, I guess, because Carolina and New Orleans are only a game back, and uh, you know Tampa has to play Carolina and Atlanta,
right.
so they're still in the race. I think probably seeing who the Saints have to play there at the Eagles. In that game now, the Eagles need to win that game, and then Carolina. So, Tampa's probably gonna win the division, but they stink. They have no chance. The Cowboys will go in there and annihilate them on in the first weekend. That would probably be, of all the games on that weekend. There's going to be 6 of them. That would probably be the one I would look at and say, you know, this is the easiest game to pick.
Right.
Um,
I'm going to say something that's sacrilege, but I think that if Bruce Arians was still coach of this team, that they would probably have 9 or 10 wins by now.
Yeah, I would have to
Or
agree with
there
that.
would be dead bodies laying all over the practice facility at Tampa. Because one of the things about Bruce, and one of the things that speculated as to why Brady didn't want to come back with Bruce as the head coach, was Bruce would bitch. If Brady had a bad day, and he was come to the microphone to talk about it, he'd say it.
yep.
And that was the thing that Bruce did. You've had a bad day. I don't care who you are, from Tom Brady to the number 53 man on the roster, he was going to call you out.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's the big difference you're seeing is like he wanted the bad guy out of the locker room,
Right.
and he got his way. But now
Hmm.
he has to be the bad guy because things
Right.
aren't going their way, and now you see him doing the yelling on the sidelines. So someone's got to do it.
Be careful what you wish for. Um, you know, if you think about it, and you guys know this too, when he was in New England, he had Bill Belichick. Okay, so there was nothing. Belichick wasn't going to cut you any slack. So when he got to Tampa, he got a little offended by the fact that of all everybody. I mean, one thing Belichick didn't do to Brady is he barely seldom talked about him. He let that up to Brady. Bruce, on the other hand, had no trouble going, Tom sucked this afternoon. I have no idea what the hell he was doing. But he said, he's a fantastic quarterback. He'll figure it out. That's Bruce. Bruce was, everyone on this field is the same to me. I don't give a damn how many Super Bowl trophies you have. I don't care whether or not you are an all-pro. If you screw up that day, you're going to hear about it. And, and I think that sense of structuring, and the thing that people will say, well, why would he do that? Well, he does it because he takes the hit for it. That way in the locker room, if somebody's pissed off because they're not doing something right, instead of having like like a Leonard Fournette go up to Tom and say, Jesus, Tom, I was open 3 times. Why didn't you find me? He's got Bruce who will do it. And so it takes the pressure off the players and puts it strictly on Bruce. So anyway, such is the way of the world. Tua Tagovailoa, for some reason, forgot the color of the uniforms that he was throwing to yesterday, because it seemed like he was showing perfect throws to the Packers and not to members of the Dolphins. Somebody needs to tell him that we are in the aqua today, not the white. So I can't believe that the Packers now have a route to the playoffs. That just is fascinating to me.
I mean, I guess they could get in here. They got to play, Minnesota, who still needs to win the game, and then Detroit, who still needs to win the game. But I guess if they finish 9-8, they might get. They're probably going to get in. Depending on what Washington does. That tie for Washington's going to end up being pretty big, I think. Washington has Cleveland. And then Dallas, that game might not mean anything for Dallas. I can't imagine they'll play anybody in that game. So, they might, the Commanders may end up getting it because of that tie, but it's going to be pretty close.
Well, if it works out the way it is right now, if it plays out, every team in the NFC East will be in the playoffs.
Yep.
And that doesn't necessarily speak to the strength of the East. It just speaks to the weakness of the West. Although I think yesterday, and I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on it, I think Baker Mayfield made himself a paycheck yesterday. I think somebody's going to sign this boy and say, this kid still can play. And I know, Amadeus, that makes you happy as a Oklahoma fan.
Yeah, I'm not an Oklahoma. I'm just a Baker Mayfield fan in general. I wanted my team to draft him, honestly, a few years ago when he was coming out, but we went with Josh Rosen in that draft, and things really worked out well for us with that pick. But yeah, I agree. I think at this point, they said Matt Stafford said he was going to come back and play next year. So I think he knows he's not going to be a Ram next year, but he's just trying to make every minute of his opportunity here show teams that, I can pick up a system in 3 weeks. He's won 2 out of the 3 games now he's been there. They put up 50 points in that game. Like, he made what the Broncos defense has been one of the best defense in the NFL all year, and he made them look like a high school team out there. It's just absolutely.
The Broncos have quit, man. There's no I clearly hate this coach. I mean, everybody, as if the Broncos fans hate him as well. He's got to go. The craziest thing about this is the Broncos could have had a top 5 pick, but it's gone. So
Well, I don't think they have a pick to 2030, right? I'm just kidding.
They have a first round pick next year. It's just further down. It's just further down because they got it from the Saints.
Right.
But it could have been a high pick, and they could have actually drafted it, someone pretty decent. But
they didn't. Yeah, they put all their eggs in that basket, and I'll tell you what, I'm a little surprised, guys, in how well Detroit was playing, and then they got beat by Carolina. Carolina's got a running game, but that's about it. I mean, I don't see. Obviously the Buccaneers and Carolina playing each other this week's going to be a big game, but I don't get where Carolina's that good.
It's that defense. It's been great all year, and really, Steve
Right.
Wilkes. I remember when Steve Wilkes was on the Cardinals for that one season. He's a defensive mind, and that's really it's really what it is. You're seeing the defense step up and play for him, and that would really be the only thing I could think about. Because yeah, you're right. There's no weapons on this offense whatsoever.
Is there anybody that's going to be able to? I mean, it looks to me like right now, I don't want to play Cincinnati. Keep them away from me.
Yeah,
So,
Cincinnati. I think they're dangerous. I think I was looking through this. Let me get the futures up here. Cincinnati's plus 350 to win the AFC. I think that's pretty interesting. I think San Francisco plus 250 to win the NFC. I think that's pretty interesting. I think San Francisco plus 600 to win the Super Bowl. You know, you know, these last couple weeks here are going to be pretty fun to watch because, you know, these teams, you know, Cincinnati has to keep winning because Baltimore's chasing them. And, you know, they're still in it for the top seed. Kansas City, same thing. Buffalo, same thing. So, you know, they can't really afford to. So they're going to go into the playoffs pretty hot. You know, it looks like Dallas, same way. Dallas is going to go into the playoffs pretty hot. You know, the teams that are going to go into the playoffs as division winners, San Francisco's won 8 in a row. Minnesota has won, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 of 13. You know, these teams are, you know, Cincinnati's won 7 in a row. The Bills have won 6 in a row. Kansas City's won, you know, 9 of 10. This isn't going to be the year where any of these wild card teams do anything. You know, I just, you know, it's going to be probably San Francisco and the Cowboys, or the Eagles and Cowboys, San Francisco and Vikings. I would guess, you know, Bills, somebody, Kansas City. I think the one team maybe that could do something is Jacksonville, just because of the way they're playing. And it didn't even take. I thought maybe it was going to take till the last game to catch them, and they're not. I had the Texans straight up on the money line. I thought that was a bad spot for the Titans. I think they're done at this point. And I just thought Houston, they played so well all season and just didn't have anything to show for it. And this game, you know, it didn't really matter because, you know, they're still going to get the number 1 seed. So it's you know, the number 1 pick. So, you know, I thought they could win that game. And I'd say I think Houston next year is one of these teams, when you look at their roster, if they get like C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, and they add, you know, and then they're going to get a high second-round pick, all of it, and get a weapon around him or something like that, they could win like 7, 8, or 9 games next year, because this team's not bad for a 2-win team.
you had mentioned that the other day, that you thought that, you know, they were the best 1-win team that you know, that you saw.
When you look at their, and they, you know, Jacksonville has Houston this week, which is very interesting.
Right.
You know, the Texans, you know, their first week they tied Indianapolis. They lost 16-9, 23-20. They won. They beat Jacksonville 13-6 already. They've lost 1 score to Tennessee. They lost a score late to Philadelphia. They lost 1 score to the Giants. You know, they lost by 4 to Dallas. The last month they've been playing much better. They lost in overtime to Kansas City. They just beat Tennessee. They're not bad, and they're gonna get you know, a really high pick in the first round, and I think they're gonna be pretty good. It'd be interesting to see if maybe Baker Mayfield goes to a place like that or something like that to play, and maybe he could play for a year if somebody like C.J. Stroud just comes right in, because they're to me, that Houston team, because that division's not great. I think Houston could be really good next year.
I think that's quite possible. I'm gonna, and I want you guys' opinion on this. I don't see. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks that are out there, and I'm a little gun shy of of C.J. Stroud simply because there hasn't been an Ohio State quarterback that stepped in and really done, been a franchise quarterback, you know, of all the great quarterbacks they've had in, the last decade.
That's why I think, just everything I've kind of read is Bryce Young there. Um, uh, just the Alabama quarterbacks obviously
Right.
have done better. And I just Stroud has the size.
Oh,
But
I'm not doubting that
yeah,
he's a hell of an athlete. Don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering, I like somebody who's been in the SEC over somebody who's played quarterback
to be
in the
honest,
Big Ten.
you know who I would rather have the top pick next year because you're going to get Caleb Williams, and I think Williams obviously playing at USC
Lincoln Riley.
under Lincoln Riley, and
Yeah.
clearly, I mean, you've seen what Lincoln Riley's done in the sending guys to Baker and main man Kyler Murray there. They do put up numbers. I'd like to see Murray in another offense, maybe like not Cliff Kingsbury, maybe in like a decent, because I do think he's very talented. I just sometimes I think that Cliff Kingsbury offense maybe isn't like I don't know. I think maybe if they get a new coach in there and he's obviously he's going to be out. He might be ready at the beginning of the season next year. Usually it takes 2 years for the ACL to completely heal back to 100%. But a lot of times now with these guys that get this surgery, I mean, they end up coming back better because the surgically repaired ligaments are usually made of like alien blood and whatever with now. So it's like but
You guys like a Marvel superhero.
I'd rather have I'd rather have Caleb Williams. And the thing is, like, there's other players out there. Like that guy Anderson is if Houston says, you know what, we'll go with, if they're not sold on any of these guys, we'll go with somebody and maybe take a chance that, you're going to be maybe in the next draft or something like that. It's tough because, you don't get these chances to pick number one all the time. And you better, if you take, Zach Wilson at number 2 and you blow it, it sets the franchise back, man. You could have some really good players at that spot. I mean, there's some good players in this draft. There's good wide receivers. There's good defensive players. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson,
right?
Obviously, the 2 there, Miles Murphy. So you better be sure, or else maybe just rebuild and do something different. If you're not sold on Stroud and Young because he's a little small, maybe just try to get through to the next year, do it again and see what happens.
Now, don't sleep on Stedford Bennett, the kid at Georgia either.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy. He's a winner. Sunderland just scored in the 91st minute. Really, really, really nice goal. 2-1 against Blackburn. I need Tottenham to draw. I need Tottenham to draw here, and I need Harry Kane to score. And I know there's not going to be 2 goals in the next 3 minutes. So
there's a chance.
For the greater good. That is an unbelievable. He just dribbled around the defender and toe poked it into the net. I mean, it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. And he toe poked it, and the ball was just like this. It was just like rolling in slow motion, and the keeper just sat there and watched it go. Like because he was wrong footed.
He was defenseless.
Oh man!
Oh no!
He actually could have probably dove for it, and just like
that's what I hate.
Slow motion. Oh man, I would have been so mad.
The goalies that just stand there and watch it, it's like at least make a try for it, right? Like even if you don't get it, like at least dive. Don't just stand there watching it go. Like, why do I have a goalie?
It's interesting. I mean, we ESPN Plus has the championship games, and I talk about the Premier League all the time, but on Twitter a lot. We'll talk to these the people. The championship is arguably the best, the most competitive league in the world. I mean, the games are absolute like bloodbaths. They beat like there's no. It's like old school English football. I mean, they butcher and stuff like that. I mean, the further down the leagues you go, it's more like that. But that's why I think people like the FA Cup games sometimes. But sometimes you see these, the Portuguese League of Notes and all this stuff, and you're like, wow, hey, they play and stuff. These games are just like bloodbaths. They just absolutely. But the games are just every game is like 1-1, 2-1, or 0-0. I mean, it's so hard to get out. And when you get out of the championship, if the three teams that get out, you're as soon as you're out, you're like, here you go. Here's 150 million pounds, which is like $200 million. That's what you get for the TV contract without even doing anything. If you go back down to the league, to the championship, you get that extra, payment the next year. So if you go up, you make $300 or $400 million for 1 year, basically.
And that doesn't count the gate.
Yeah, the gate, all the just concessions and all that stuff. So it's like, I mean, these guys are, and the thing is, the best thing about it is, these guys are playing for. And when you go up to the Premier League, all of a sudden your salary goes up. If you're making whatever 10,000 pounds a week, 5,000 pounds a week, all of a sudden now you're on 15,000 pounds. Well, look, I mean that's a huge bump.
Yeah,
you're making an extra whatever a week, or a year. I mean, hey man, now you're a millionaire. So it's a big deal. So these games are all just I really I always have like I have the Premier League on in the middle TV. Don't want to show you too much of it so we get blocked or whatever. But I have the Premier League on in the middle, and then I usually have like a championship game on the side TV just because I do like watching those games and betting them sometimes. It's hard though. Those games are like you're trying to bet those games, you might as well just give up winning money.
Well, you can take and throw darts.
It's hard enough winning Premier League games. I mean, I'm stunned by this game. Tottenham was terrible, and then they scored twice, but
it's so bad on the road. Like we've talked so many times on previous shows about how bad the team is on the road, and sure enough, they went down in 15 minutes. Had to play from behind the whole game.
You know what's interesting? They almost scored there. I gave out this sports flash on ESPN this weekend. This was the game we picked. And they're like, why this game? I said, well, first of all, it's the first game back. I said, but the flash was Brentford's only lost once at home this year. And Tottenham's only won twice on the road. They're not very good on the road. And everybody in the world thought Tottenham was going to win this game after that thing. Harry Kane coming back. He always scores. He actually did score, but he should have had about 5 today because he's a donkey. So, and they're like, hey, yeah, this, but these trends, they mean stuff. I mean, over the, 1 or 2 games, trends are not whatever. But, if you see, the Jets have lost to the Patriots 14 straight times, that means, like, to me, I mean, that means something. It's psychological, whatever it is, you have to kind of look at that. So, Tottenham's not very good on the road. He sets up very defensively, and then they go behind 2-0, and all of a sudden he gets out. But, I don't know. It's these games are tough to call, man.
Well,
yeah, the trends, man. I was on the over in that one. Both teams, they trended the over all year.
Until they didn't.
Yeah,
Tottenham falls behind on the road, and
that's what I mean, right? Like I know their defense is bad. They're going to give up goals. They're going to have to score.
No Romero today. No Lloris today. The Fraser Foster, the first goal he got was terrible. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing now with these games is, you got to make sure you see who's playing. But it's um, Tottenham, Conte is going to try to win every game 1-0. But then when they go behind, all of a sudden, they're gonna do that. So yeah, it's interesting, and that was the first of 6 games today. So it's a big day for soccer, obviously.
which is a good thing.
Yes, finally.
I know Boxing Day is the big day.
Yeah,
Finally
look, I
back.
mean, I World Cup is World Cup. I mean, but he likes Milan. I'm a United fan. I don't really care about the national team stuff, to be honest. I mean, I like the World Cup because it's soccer and it's on TV and you get excited. Everybody's excited about it. But like, this is the stuff. This is I moved my game tomorrow. I was supposed to do a 3:00 game. I said, nah, 5:30.
United's playing.
United's playing at 3. Like it's just, you got to have priorities.
That's right. I mean, come on, boys and girls.
I mean, look, they obviously they played in the they played in the what do you call it? They played in the Carabao Cup. It was a good game, and they played the friendlies, but it's not the same. Like, this is the Premier League is where it's at. And then today is great because, once again, there's, at 10:00, there's 3 different games, or there's 4 games on. And then there's the Aston Villa Liverpool game, which I think is very interesting today, and Arsenal West Ham, which I think is going to be really interesting going forward because, what's Arsenal going to do here? They're going to clearly bring somebody in. There's a lot of news. I mean, it's between them and Manchester United for João Felix. The Premier League trophies at the Emirates today, so all those fans are going to be. I'm begging for a West Ham win today. But we'll see. We'll see what goes on here. But yeah, look, it's it's the Premier League. It's the best league in the world.
What do you guys? Do you have any favorites for today's games? There's quite a few on the docket, as you just said.
What's I know what let me see if these match total. Well, first, if you're looking here, if you're new, if you're looking for Foxy's plays, you go to Big Al or Pick Advisor. If you're looking for some of those, you have any of the 10:00 games here? I know they're not like the greatest games in the world. If Crystal Palace Fulham, I think is a tough game. Everton Wolves, how do you bet that game? Brighton Southampton, Brighton is +108, but Southampton, I kind of like their young players. And then Leicester Newcastle, I think is obviously the showpiece game here at 10:00, and Newcastle is flying here. You like any of these things, Foxy? Or not Foxy? Amadeus.
Yeah. So I definitely
Newcastle. I'm waiting for Foxy to come in and trash Manchester United.
I was gonna say yell at you some Newcastle facts. Yeah. No, I definitely. If you want to buy my premium plays, I got a plays up for every time slot today in the Premier League. But yeah, honestly, as a free play, I gave out Leicester and Newcastle under 2.5. Leicester City, man, they've given up 1 goal in their last 8 games, 7 clean sheets in that span. They're just like they really turned things around before the break, and they even came out and just had that EFL Cup 3-0 win over MK Dons. So yeah,
I'm going to pull the table up for you quickly as you're talking.
Yeah, and Newcastle's the same way. Like they haven't really given up goals all year. They've only allowed 11 in their 15 matches this year. So like these are 2 really good informed teams with 2 good defenses right now. I think Leicester at home goals are going to be a little hard to come by.
Yeah, it's this you look at Leicester City here, they're still down in 13th. They're 5-2-8, but if you look at their actual results, I mean, they were atrocious to start. They're terrible.
They were at the bottom.
They tied Brentford. They gave up. It was 2-0 Leicester. They gave up 2 goals. They lost 4-2 to Arsenal. They lost 2-1 to Southampton. Terrible loss. They lost 2-1 to Chelsea. They lost 1-0 to Manchester United when Manchester United was terrible. They lost 5-2 to Brighton. This and 6-2 to Spurs. Like, this was an absolute right here. People were like, get rid of this guy. They were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had lost 7 games in a row, and their goal difference was like minus 20. Like, they were atrocious. But they had just lost Wesley Fofana. They're trying to figure it out. Then all of a sudden, here's the international break, right? And they come back on October 3rd, 4-0 against Nottingham Forest. A little blip here. But now look at what the defense is doing. This is where you talk about the defense. They came back from here, and clearly in this 2-week break, they talked about defense. They gave up the 2 goals to Bournemouth, 0-0, 2-0, 4-0, 1-0 against Manchester City in a game they really could have gone either way. 2-0 against Everton on the road, 2-0 against West Ham on the road. These games most of them are on the road here too. 3 of the last 4 clean sheets have been on the road. So, they're not going to be afraid today to go out there against, a Newcastle team who's flying. So, I think this is an interesting game. I don't, people are just kind of saying Newcastle, because Newcastle's only got 1 loss. But, I think between them, I think the break hurt Newcastle the most and Arsenal the most. I think it helped some other teams, clearly Manchester City, who wasn't playing great before that, but now they have a chance to regroup. I think the break came at a bad time for this Newcastle team. I think this is going to be a really interesting game.
Yeah, Leicester is also going to be missing James Maddison for this game, but it's interesting, right? Because this Leicester, they weren't doing anything with the old players at the beginning of the season, so maybe you need to get these younger guys in. Like, I know Daka's going to be getting a start. He was playing pretty well before the break, so it'll be interesting to see what these young guys have for Leicester.
We talked about there's some of the stars because of World Cup are not quite back yet. How does that help or hinder these teams that are now playing in the today and probably later in the week? It might take another week or so before those star players get back. Does that give these teams a chance to look at some of the younger kids, or how does that work out?
Yeah, I think it depends which team. I mean, if you're talking about Manchester City, it's probably not going to hurt that much because those kids, most of the players will be back. They didn't have anybody really playing in the French squad or the anybody that's not in jail playing in the French squad. Mendy is, he's on the roster, I guess. But some of these other teams, clearly like Manchester United tomorrow, both their center backs are out. So that might affect them. They looked all right the other day, but I think sometimes it maybe gives these little smaller teams a little bit of an advantage. Obviously today in that Brentford Tottenham game, Tottenham is missing Christian Romero, and the defense looked like a shambles at the back, and Lloris was rested at the end as well there. So, I think. It helps some of these teams. The game that's, I know you're going to think I'm nuts here, but I think I think one of those teams will win. That Everton Wolves game. I just, it's like 0-0, but you get pretty good value at either team to win. I don't know who it's going to be. I would think. I think, I don't know. It could be an interesting game. I don't know if Wolves are going to have all their players back. Calvert-Lewin is still out. James Garner's out. Andros Townsend is out. Connor Cody's out. Traore, Nunez, and Jimenez are going to be in. I don't know. I'm not going to bet that game because I'm not, masochist. But that Southampton game to me is interesting. Southampton or draw at -120. I think the Southampton team has some pretty good young players in it. That sometimes these breaks, allows those young kids to get some practice in and start. You get 6 weeks of practice with the coach there, so that'll be interesting. But clearly the two later games today are the better games. Aston Villa, Liverpool. Aston Villa is not going to have Martinez, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be there for very long anyway. The coach doesn't want him, and then Arsenal, West Ham. I think, Arsenal, West Ham to me. This Arsenal team, they have to win this game. I think if people want to be, if you want me to take you seriously as you're a title challenger, they got to go out and win this game right after the break because they were so good before it. They come out and kind of trip up a little bit after the break here, which they always do. They've been in this spot a million times. And then in the winter, January, February, when they go into those Europa League or Champions League games, they always take a dive. Always. You see the table, they're leading it, and then all of a sudden we come out of February, and all of a sudden Arsenal's 15 points back. There's so many games, there's so many cups, there's so many things going on. We'll see what Arsenal does here, but I think they have to win today. But I don't know, that's a tough game for them. West Ham is going to be ready to go, and West Ham or draw at +150 is pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that one. I hope Arsenal wins, but I'm not going to be betting them today, especially
who's playing up top?
I forget. I checked that earlier. I think Martinelli is going to be starting, but not up top. I forget.
Arsenal, West Ham.
Yeah, who? Man.
Out of here. Let's see who's going to play. They say Sportsmole says Eddie Nketiah. Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, and Nketiah. Yikes.
Yeah.
And look, this West Ham team, Rice, Souček, Fornals, Paqueta, Benrahma, and Bowen, they're not terrible. Antonio and Scamacca maybe might play, maybe not. Saliba obviously probably going to be out. Emil Smith-Rowe has been out for a while. Zinchenko's out for I guess Nketiah, man, I don't know. I actually I may take a chance on West Ham and then the double chance there. That's interesting. That's an interesting lineup to me. So Arsenal's got to go out and spend money here because they're if they don't, I think they're in a little bit of danger of falling behind some of these teams here.
Yeah, they definitely need a replacement for Jesus.
And Liverpool, I'd like to see what the lineup is today. I
think I saw it was going to be up front. It was going to be Salah on the right, Oxlade, Chamberlain on the left, and oh man, I forget who's in the middle.
What happened to Arsenal? Arsenal used to be a consistently top 3 or 4 team.
Yeah, I think
I don't know. There was so many years of Arsene Wenger and Mikel Arteta. It was just they used to have a good team, yeah. And then I think the last time they had a good team was when Alexis Sanchez was still there.
They were just happy making top 4 and getting to the Champions League and being a moneymaker. They fell into this thing
so they got fat, dumb, and happy.
Yeah, they start to. They're worried more about making money and that new stadium and paying the stadium back, and Stan Kroenke's the owner, so he's got 20 other things going on. I mean, so it's one of these things where
Actually, all you had to say was Stan Kroenke's the owner. That really kind of sums it up. Um, there, he has his moments, and then all of a sudden,
he's
that'll
been
go
very
from the
good
pit.
though late. I mean, they spend money. I mean, and he's he's running the club the right way now. So I just think they had to kind of maybe pay back the stadium, and all the other stuff was going on, and Joe Wiz says he needs a pick. Said gonna go with
For what, Joe?
Joe Wiz says he needs a pick for today. He needs a big soccer play.
Okay.
Give him Liverpool.
So is there a lock out there, boys?
I don't know.
There's never a lock.
Okay. Point
Today,
well taken.
I mean,
Point well taken.
Tomorrow, I don't like this Chelsea Bournemouth game at all. Chelsea's banged up as well. Manchester United, they should beat Nottingham Forest because Dean Henderson can't play for Nottingham Forest because he's on loan. So I don't know who their backup is. Thursday, Manchester City should beat Leeds. Wednesday. To be honest, the better games to me are later in the week. Liverpool plays Leicester City. Wolves plays United on Saturday morning in that early game. It's these games, especially these 10:00 games. I just don't know. I mean, they could go. Crystal Palace, Fulham could go either way. Newcastle, Leicester could go either way. Everton, Wolves could go either way. And Southampton, Brighton. Brighton's been very good, but once again, Southampton at home. So it's one of these days where you just look at the 10:00 games and go, and you know what, pass. Me, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna pass. Like, I'm not gonna probably throw a lot of money on these games right now because there's some pretty good games coming up in the midweek, and PSG's back on Wednesday, and Real Madrid's back on Friday, and Barcelona's back on Saturday. So there's some good games coming up.
Let me ask you guys a quick question, boys. We all know that at this point in time, when we were watching the NFL this weekend, it was weather had a factor in pretty much all the games played east of the Mississippi. Does weather have a factor in these games? The early games are at the 10:00 game would be a 3:00 game in the UK.
Yeah.
And then the later games are obviously the early evening games. It's cold, but is it better to play early in the day or is it better to play at night?
Probably the sun. I mean, I would say the day. Those night games are tough. It's cold and wet. But yeah,
favorite kind of weather, cold and wet.
I don't know. I think it's the same for both. So like whatever. But the fields are always slick. So now, I mean, the Premier League games never get postponed for the pitches being frozen. I mean, they all have the undersoil stuff. So really on the field, it's probably not that bad. But it's I think it has a little bit of effect. The wind and stuff like that. You don't get too many of those crazy games, but you get more of those games in the going forward. And then you got the sideways rain and stuff like that. And all these other weather things.
I wouldn't want to be playing in Scotland this time of the year.
Oh my God.
No,
tell that to the Rangers and Celtic.
Yeah, they play the day after New Year's. They play January 2nd.
They've already played a game. I think they played over the weekend too.
Yeah. But I'm saying no. But Celtic plays Rangers on the 2nd.
Oh, they play each other. Oh, okay.
I was watching those games. I think they've
derby.
already played 2 games back. They've already had 2 games. That because none of the Scottish players are. If you're going to the World Cup, you're not playing in Scotland. Yeah. But yeah, those games are always interesting. I think, Scott, now Celtic is, much better. We talked about Rangers. They were the worst team in the
Mhm.
history of the Champions League, followed very closely by Victoria Pilsen. But, they're not the same as they were. I think they made a Europa League final last year. If they lost in penalties. They really were this close to winning a cup last year, but they're not the same as they were when Gerard was there. So it's a little bit different.
Okay, boys, we have a Monday night football game tonight. Any thoughts on that one?
Chargers.
Yeah, I think the Chargers win, but I don't know. 4 points seems like a lot for them. Have you seen some of their games this year? They do not blow out a lot of teams. So
Yeah, I would put it at -3. There's no way I'd leave it at -4. That coach is. I can't trust that coach.
not a Brandon Staley fan.
Oh, terrible. If they had a decent coach, they'd be. First of all, they wouldn't have missed the playoffs last year. But they should win that game. The Colts, they're I can't imagine they're doing anything after that game last week.
Well, the other thing with the Chargers is they have this great defense. If you look at the roster, there's all these great names, but they're never healthy on the field together. Like I would like to see that defense just healthy, fully healthy once. I want to see how they play.
Well, that's the thing. I'm telling you, if their roster is healthy going into the playoffs, they're dangerous, man, because they're gonna play. Where are they right now in the?
I think if they win tonight, they clinch a wild
Yeah,
card.
they clinch a wild card. It's a wild card clinch if they if they get that win tonight. And honestly, not for nothing, they won the offseason. I mean, they added some studs in the offseason. And we know that Kansas City is still the team to beat out there. But I'm with you guys. If they can stay, if that roster is a healthy roster, that's somebody you don't want to play.
Yeah, they're going to get the Chiefs or the Bengals in that first round. They lost to the Chiefs 30-27 and 27-24. The Chiefs want no part of the Chargers in that game, 100%. They have some decent wins. They play the 49ers tough. They play everybody tough. They just can't put these teams away. I 100%. I just think that goes back to the coach. They should be blowing some of these teams out. They have the talent to do it. They just don't beat anybody. They lose a lot of close games and they win a lot of close games. So they play a lot of close games. But if you do that enough in the playoffs, you're going to get beat at some point. You can't you got to blow some teams out. But I think they're going to be, if they play the Chiefs in that first, I'd be worried if I was the Chiefs. I want no part of that.
And the other thing too is you're talking about the Chiefs. You don't want to play a team 3 times in one season.
Yeah,
because they already have film on you. You're just asking for it if that's the case in that regard.
Yeah, and they almost lost both of those games. They had I think the first one they played, it was when Herbert really got that rib injury that bothered him for a lot of the season. But if he doesn't get that rib injury, they're storming down the field. Maybe he doesn't make that dumb throw and they end up stealing one from the Chiefs. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be the Chiefs. Honestly, I think the Bengals are the team that's going to win the number one seed. They got a game against the Bills this week. If they beat the Bills, not only do they have the head-to-head, but they drop the Bills down to the same record as them. And all they need, Kansas City better hope they win the season out, because if they drop a single game, Cincinnati's got the head-to-head over them too, and they're not getting that number one seed.
That's right. Yeah, no, I think Burrow and I'd be the Bengals are a team. The Bengals and 49ers are the two teams that are not going to be, the Bengals might end up being the top seed, but if they're not the top seed, if they're the 2 or the 3 seed and they're the teams I would say have a chance to go to the Super Bowl not as a 1 seed. I think the Eagles, as long as Hurts is healthy, because they look pretty good. against the Cowboys.
Mustache Minshew.
If Hurts is healthy, Minshew was good. I mean, it really wasn't him. I mean, they had a chance to win that anyway. So, I think if Hurts is healthy, the Eagles are going to be really dangerous. But, obviously, in the AFC, it's probably those three teams. The three, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills are probably all about the same. And, I would say maybe the Chargers are a little bit below that, but dangerous.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert, not for nothing, has he has stepped up when needed to. Yeah, but they finally got some players to go around him, which definitely has been beneficial to him.
Yeah, Austin Eckler's a beast. He's also been missing, like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams for a majority of the season. They were battling with a lot of injuries. But yeah, you get those guys back healthy going into the playoffs. This is a dangerous offense. This is a dangerous defense. And if I go check the injury report and they don't have 20 guys listed on the injury report for once, then you know what? Yeah, this is a team that I think could go to the Super Bowl. I was high on the Chargers at the beginning of the season. I thought they were going to win the division over Kansas, and it had nothing to do with the loss of Tyreek Hill. I thought the Chargers were just a good team if you look at their roster, but they always got 20 guys on the injury list.
Yep.
And
that's Brandon Staley too.
Brandon Staley, you just hate. For me, it's injuries. For you, you just hate the coach. You hate Nathaniel Hackett. You hate the whole AFC West coach except Andy Reid, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot to hate in that AFC West.
That's right.
I mean, look at the. Last night, and Sean hit on it early. I mean, you trade everything short of the stadium to get Russell Wilson, and then you get blown out 50 by you let the Rams put 51 points on it.
What?
That I just think they quit. I mean,
they did. That's what you're right, 100%. But I'm just saying. This is the team that I swear to God, it would make me nauseous. I think they forgot Kansas City and San Diego was in the division because all these, quote unquote geniuses were saying, "Oh my God, you got to watch out for Denver." Now they got Russell Wilson. I go, I understand they got Russell Wilson, but they sure as hell don't have anybody around him that's going to make him any better.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you know what? Lucky for Sean, I actually think things are going to turn around for this Broncos team next year because, they were in the middle of selling the franchise in the offseason when they picked up Russell Wilson, when they, hired the new coach. Now they're owned by the Walmart Group. Walmart Group doesn't want to lose money on stadium sales. I heard when the Broncos played my Cardinals last week, they were going for $12 tickets. They're not going to stand for this. I think the Walmart Group specifically is going to be, fed up with what they've seen this year. And considering they didn't really have a big say in the coach or the quarterback, maybe I know they just signed him to a huge contract, but maybe you don't see Russell Wilson on the team. Maybe they try to unload him on somebody. I don't know who would even take him at this point, but that's what I mean. I think maybe the coach gets fired. Maybe they try even just sit Russell as the backup. Try and draft somebody. I don't know. But,
I'm not going to throw this on Russ. I mean, it's to me, it's the surrounding cast. Okay, it's the offensive coordinator who draws up some of these plays. It looks like he draws them up in the dirt. And then you don't have wide receivers and running backs, so you can't. I'm not throwing it on Wilson specifically. I'm just saying you traded everything to get to him. But you didn't have any pieces around him to help him.
Yeah, I also think it's the coach too. Like you mentioned,
100%.
The coordinator's not calling plays. Hackett's asking him to do something he never did in Seattle for 15 years of his career. Okay, now you're asking the guy to play under center more, and he's just not used to it.
Right, and it's it's like taking a Ferrari and saying, "I just want you to drive at 40 miles an hour."
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, can you do it? Sure. But, there's nothing that Russell's doing that he had, that fits his personality.
Yeah, they got to build the team around his strengths, not tell him this is what we have, so do it.
Right. It's and then the defense hasn't been all that great either. So,
Yeah, they were really good, and then they let up 50 points
They,
last night.
they were unbelievable for
Right.
weeks, and they just like
well, they were the third ranked
quit.
defense for a while.
I think they quit too. I'm just like they're like, listen, I'm not. This is ridiculous. Like the season's over. Like you guys haven't helped us all year.
Right.
When am I gonna bust my ass when you can't score points?
Right. It's like they had a reservation to go over to Santa Monica after the game. It's like, we're gonna get on the bus and go to Santa Monica over to the pier. We're getting out of here.
Yep.
Pretty much.
So yeah, it's crazy times at Ridgemont High. All right. Well, boys, we've come to the 10 o'clock hour. Any final thoughts before we get out of here and start talking? Quick note, folks, keep an eye out. We're going to do some live stuff toward the end of this week, and we'll let you know. We'll keep you apprised of what's going on. Tell your friends, and we're going to have some fun by commenting as games go on and get your comments and really have some fun. You guys who have been with us on we've had a couple of successful soccer World Cup live events, and so we'd love to have you join us for those, and we're going to have some fun, and so keep a lookout. We're going to give you plenty of notice ahead of time, but live is fun, and we're going to see how that works out. So final thoughts, my friends. Sean, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I'm just excited to watch some of these games today.
And Mr. Amadeus, anything?
Yeah, I hope everybody had a good weekend. Have a happy New Year. And if you're Canadian, have a happy Boxing Day. Don't get ran over by some crazy people.
Because they're there.
Oh, yeah. Been there, done that. You don't want to go to the malls today.
Stay away.
Yeah, you get people get out of their cars and stand in front of parking spots, three cars behind you. It's like I'm pulling in. Can't just stand in the spot.
No, doesn't count. That's not fair.
Yeah, so just be safe out there, please, if you're Canadian.
Do not hurt anybody.
Seriously.
All right. Okay, guys. It's been fun. We'll see you all tomorrow. Be well. And there's plenty of good information that these boys gave you. By all means, pay attention.